Irrational fear is one that has a real, physical, experienced reason to be in your life. Irrational fears has always been with you. You cannot pinpoint a certain situation in your life when an irrational fear would have had a chance to enter your system. No physical reasons, no mental reasons, and no emotional reasons. If something traumatic happened prior to your memory activation, it can manifest as what I call an irrational fear. How these are saved in the human system is still not fully clear. Anatomical research of the brain shows that traces of fear exist in the biological system even before the conscious memory system has been activated. Part 1. Your status quo and why you need this book. Chapter 5. Rational and Irrational Fears. If uncertainty is unacceptable to you, it turns into fear. If it is perfectly acceptable, it turns into increased awareness, aliveness, alertness, and creativity. Eckhart Tolle. I categorize fears into two different types: irrational fears and rational fears. This distinction will help your mind to orient yourself to the topic of fear, and it will give you a guideline to think about and to reflect on. Let's start with a rational fear. A rational fear is one that has a real, physical, experienced reason to be in your life. For example, when you were a child, maybe you were on stage for a performance. The crowd was either amazed by your performance or they weren't. For you, at first, their reaction was not so important. However, once you left the stage, maybe your sibling, your parents, or another person in your circle, someone you valued, gave you negative feedback on your performance. And even if the whole crowd was happy, you saved that negative feedback deep in your system. At that moment, you allowed fear to enter your system. Do it again? Be rejected again? Fail again? Nope, that will not happen. And your new fear, stage fright, will help you to avoid these possibilities in the future. We could blame the person for bringing the fear into your system through the negative feedback, but this is too easy. First, most humans don't want to harm other humans. Second, no person is responsible for your systems reacting to these circumstances in the way it did. Not even you. Usually, when we are young and major fears enter our systems and find their place, we don't know it is happening. The mind wants to protect. The mind wants us to be safe from these unpleasant feelings, from these emotions that are hurting us in a certain way. And therefore, a fear is welcomed and ensures that this will never happen again. I will not go on stage again and embarrass myself, get really bad feedback, be rejected and in pain, your mind says. Sadly, if you never go on stage again, you will never see that you can do better. It's the same with everything we do. We must do anything at least a couple of times to see if we are good at it or not. Our success is more heavily related to what we think and feel about ourselves than what the feedback of others makes us believe. But we are not taught to think and feel this way. We are taught to blame someone or to believe that we are guilty. In my reality, and I wish it to become yours as well, there is no blame and no guilt. You can read more about that in my free articles about soul communication at sage-justus.com/. /soul_communication. Another example of a rational fear, and these are just examples, so as always, if they don't directly apply to you, think of something from your own experience. In your young age, maybe you were playing with a neighbor's cat, dog, or horse. While doing so, something happened. Maybe you grabbed the dog's tail, but the dog didn't see you coming and it snapped at you. It reacted by instinct, not because it wanted to hurt you. It was surprised and defended itself. The dog bit your arm, the cat scratched you, the horse bucked you off. What if you didn't grab the dog's tail and it bit you anyway? Maybe you could not justify a reason why the animal acted the way it did. Maybe the animal's action had nothing to do with anything you did consciously and actively. You couldn't know that the animal's previous owner had mistreated it, or that the horse had been bitten by a horsefly. But the rational fear that arises from a situation like this one is relatable. I'm afraid of X because this happened to me once or even twice. Another short example from an entrepreneur to present you with a more subtle layer. I'm afraid of big numbers. When I was in math class, my teacher always used big numbers. I was bad in math in general, so he always called me out for being bad. It would have been the same with small numbers, but that is why I don't want to look at big numbers. I don't want to handle them anymore. The entrepreneur has knowingly carried that fear with him. He tells himself, it's fine, I don't have to deal with big numbers. But that is not how it should be. Don't limit yourself because of experience from a time when you did not have the understanding about yourself that you have today. Reconsider who you have become and what tools you now have instead of focusing on what you learned from experience. And what are irrational fears? Irrational fears has always been with you. You cannot pinpoint a certain situation in your life when an irrational fear would have had a chance to enter your system. No physical reasons, such as a snapping dog. No mental reasons, like the teacher's feedback to your struggles with math. And no emotional reasons, like the valued person's negative judgment of your stage performance. There is no memory in your brain that you can pinpoint to causing your irrational fear. And there could be two reasons for this. Reason number one, you were way too young to remember the situation, but your system was old enough to save it and form a fear. Thanks to childhood amnesia, which makes it hard for us to recall events before the age of 3, you are unable to consciously remember details from when you were young. Until your memory system starts operating, there are 94,608,000 seconds in which something could have happened to you. If something traumatic happened prior to your memory activation, it can manifest as what I call an irrational fear. How these are saved in the human system is still not fully clear, but anatomical research of the brain shows that traces of fear exist in the biological system even before the conscious memory system has been activated. Also, the nervous system, the spine, and the amygdala can develop physically differently when exposed to stressful situations in the early stage of life. This is deep science, and the research on these topics is fascinating. If you are interested, I recommend you dive into the studies of Ostroff and Likhtik to understand more of your physical body. As for the book, we will focus on the second source of irrational fears. Reason number 2, non-physical. The second source of irrational fears relates to the open-mindedness I noted earlier regarding some of the examples I will present to you. While you may categorize them as fantasy stories, don't become closed-minded about them. The following could be one of those examples, even so I try to keep it related to our physical world for now. Later in the book, I will help you to open your mind further and process these stories with ease. Consider that an irrational fear came into your life before you were even born, even before you were in your mother's womb. In science, the field that studies this is called epigenetics. You can think of it as the study of generational impact. Analyzing DNA and genes is fascinating. You can find studies comparing the children of parents with post-traumatic stress disorder versus those where the parents do not have PTSD. They show that some genes are activated and passed to their offspring even over generations. For the purpose of this book, so instead of taking this scientific approach, we are aiming to discover the energetic reasons behind your irrational fear. Depending on your culture, there could be many ways to think of the source of your fear. Ancestral, God's will, karma, even generational as mentioned above. Whatever name you give it, it is not really your fear because you did not experience anything related to it in your lifetime. It comes from a different time. It could be from the time before your parents lived. It might not be related to anyone you know or will ever meet in your life. For this book, we will focus on the connection to these fears and how you can handle them instead of researching how they are even possible. For a better understanding of the current chapter, I want you to accept that all humans are made of the same matter. Imagine the makeup of our bodies, all made of the same organs, which are made from tissues, molecules, and finally atoms. Therefore, if broken down into our atoms, we are all one and the same, made from the same matter. The atoms that make you are the same atoms that make your neighbor. They could even be swapped and you'd still be the same person. Looking at it as a different way, you could exist 1,000,000 times, even in a single moment. You can also have all kinds of connection to irrational fears within these potential existences. Time itself is a model created by our minds that allows us to unfold, grow, proceed, and orient ourselves. But it does not exist beyond our minds. In our imaginary pool of atoms, time does not exist. Everything is always connected to everything else. You are always connected to all your possible beings. That means when you inherit a fear from another person, in actuality, you get it from yourself. This sounds like madness. Why would you want to give yourself fears? But the answer is because you need them to process life, survive, and evolve. After reading and applying the methods from this book, you will understand the service you provided to yourself by giving yourself some fears. You will learn more about fears, how they work, and how you work with them. Also, you will get a better understanding of atoms and the energies behind your fears. You now know that there is a difference between rational and irrational fears. You also know that you are not responsible for getting fears into your system. Often, you don't even have the memory that gave rise to the fear. Whatever fears you have, rational or irrational, we will find a way to open the layer they rest in, and from there you can work on them. With the process in this book, you might fully release them and get them out of your system for good. In the next chapter, you will learn how this is possible. Before we proceed with that, let's have a look at your specific fears with a short assessment. This and the ones that follow will help you orient yourself. We are all different humans with our own unique experiences and circumstances. That is why your self-evaluation is important. Even if you read this book with a book club or alongside a loved one, do your own homework and don't get influenced too much by others. You are reading this book for a reason. Fear assessment. First, list the fears you have, sorting them into two lists: rational and irrational fears. Second, go back and attach ages to those fears. For the rational fears, how old were you when the inciting incident happened? For the irrational fears that have been there all the time, how old were you when you realized you had that fear? And third, assign each fear a number corresponding to how urgent it is to be treated, with 1 being low urgency and 5 being high. This will help you later in your journey.